Hello, everybody, and welcome to Finding the Guardian of Your Soul. I'm Lisa Shield, and I am the founder and CEO of Emotionally Naked Dating. It is so lovely to have you here. We talk in Emotionally Naked Dating, my 6-month course on how to find the guardian of your soul, about everything to do with love and relationships and men and mirroring a man's masculinity back to him and how to be the kind of woman who can take the feminine lead and attract this amazing man. The kind of relationship that we are showing our clients how to find or how to attract is different than a soulmate relationship, because in a guardian of your soul relationship, you have two people who are actively supporting each other's soul's journey in this lifetime, who are there for each other, who see what the other person is meant to be, and they do everything in their power to create a space in this life for that person's soul to flourish and blossom and become all that it was meant to be. I know my husband Benjamin did that for me. When I met him, he looked at me after 3 months of knowing me and he said, you may have been very excited about importing some years ago, but you should really be a life coach or a therapist. That's really your passion now. And so feeling seen by this man who I love and respect so much, I sold my importing business. I enrolled in a coaching program, and here I am 22 years later sharing my wealth of wisdom and knowledge with women like you who are on this journey to find their partners. So let's talk today about are you really ready for a relationship? There's a very big difference between thinking that you're ready and being ready for a relationship. I know that when I set out to find my husband, I wasn't ready. I knew I had a lot of work still to do. I had done years of work on myself, but if I had met my husband in the early days of dating, I would have sabotaged it. And I might have even missed that he was such a great guy. I don't think I would, because you meet Benjamin and you know immediately that he is an extraordinary person. But I would have been so intimidated by him. The idea of meeting a guy like him and the reality would have been two very, very different things. And we find this with our clients all the time. They will say to us, I thought I was really ready. I told myself, oh, I'm ready to meet my guy. And I had no idea what it would actually be like to meet him. And sure enough, all of their insecurities came rushing to the surface. All of that inner dialogue about how evolved they were and why can't I meet a man on my level? And all what they started to see was that they were deeply insecure and very afraid. Hey, I've never done this before. And now here I am. I've worked so long and hard to find a guy that I really like and that I think could be a great partner. And now suddenly I'm wondering, well, am I good enough? Will he like me? Am I really ready? What about my insecurities? Do I know how to have the kinds of conversations I really need to have and want to have with this man? Or am I too afraid? Am I expecting him to read my mind? Am I pulling away? Am I playing mind games because I'm too afraid to ask for what I really want? These are all the fears that start to come to the surface. And very often we overanalyze, we criticize, we judge, and we even start to push somebody away without even knowing it, because we start to become afraid. We get anxious or we start to become avoidant. and we find fault with the other person, not because there's anything wrong with him, but because we're so afraid to open up and make ourselves vulnerable and fall for somebody when we actually start to feel that we're falling in love with someone. It's very, very common that what happens is we become, those feelings are so scary, right? Because we start to realize I do need this person. If I open my heart to him, I will start to develop a need for this person in my life. And I've been so good at being on my own and doing everything by myself. Suddenly leaning on somebody and trusting that this person will be there for me is a very, very, very scary thing, especially when you haven't had it for a while or when you've never had it. It's very hard to start to want it and to trust it. So let's talk about a few of the things that really come up, right? So, one of the things that often happens is when we're looking for a partner or a relationship, many people, many women feel that finding a guy is going to fill some kind of void in their life or make them feel complete when they feel incomplete. And this is really a trap that we put ourselves in because we think, oh, well, when I meet my guy, it'll be like a dream come true. There will be skyrockets and moonbeams and, all of these incredible feelings. And I will know that suddenly my life, it's like, when you see on the that Disney logo where you see the Disney castle and then all the Tinkerbell goes flying by and all the fireworks go off. We think that that's what it's going to be like. And then we'll have this happily ever after, this magical life that we've been longing for, like in some kind of fairy tale. And, um, it doesn't work that way. First of all, we really encourage our clients not to look for those feelings, those over the top feelings that we get, that big chemistry that we're all looking for. We actually encourage our clients to look for something much more grounded, to meet a man who they like and feel has potential, but where it grows slowly and gradually from the ground up instead of coming from the top down. And so a lot of the women who go through our course have to relearn and rethink what it is going to look like and feel like when they do meet the guardian of their soul. They will start out by seeing, does this man have my final five? Does he have the 10 things on my wish list or, 7 or 8 of those 10 things? Is this man really who I think he is? Not rushing in, but slowing down, waiting to say, I love you, waiting to have sex, and moving much slower than most of you have probably moved in the past, and letting those feelings build gradually and from the ground up instead of from the top down. And so this is a much more mature, thoughtful way of entering into relationship than most people have ever done before. And sometimes you'll meet someone and those feelings won't develop. It won't grow. But usually with the right man, it will feel like there's respect and that respect turns into love. The other thing, and a second thing that often comes up in relationship when we think we're ready, is that you have to adapt to another person. When we're single, we get to make all our own decisions. We get to do whatever we want to do. We can spend money on whatever we want to spend money on. We can come and go and whatever. And we don't have to consider another person in any of those decisions. We become very, very comfortable being our own boss and thinking of oh, I want to take this trip, or I want to buy that condo, or I want to upgrade my car, or whatever it is. I want to move cities. I don't like where I'm living. I'd like to move to a different city. We can make all of those decisions without having to consult anybody. So when you start to get involved with another person, there's all kinds of things that you have to consider. And as working women today, women who are successful, who have their own careers and incomes and all, you are going to have to be willing to share some of your assets, your income. You can't have it all one way where a man is just supporting you and you don't have to give anything financially in the relationship. Some of you still have very conservative ideas about, hey, I'm going to work and my money is my money, but a man should provide for me and take care of me. Well, there are many, many, many men today who feel differently about that and who feel that they want women who are also going to be generous in the relationship and meet them partway, if not halfway. So you are going to have to adapt to another person and make room in your life, in your heart for that person. And you will no longer be able to be a one-man band. So if you did pride yourself on being independent and all, you are going to have to let go of some of that independence. And trust me, you will want to, but it may be hard for you if that's the way it's been for you for a long time. And we run into a lot of men who don't want to give up their independence. Well, there are many, many of you women who don't want to give up your independence either. You're afraid of having a man take advantage of you financially, and you probably or may have had that happen. I know my ex-husband did not deliver financially, and I wound up being the primary breadwinner and financial support in our relationship. I did that in other relationships. And I didn't expect my current husband to just pay for everything. We both contribute everything we have to this relationship. We don't have separate bank accounts or anything. I didn't want that, and neither did he. But at the same time, I made sure I found a man who was a provider and who was financially responsible and who was a grown-up man so that I could do this with him. It's not like I came out of those other relationships and became like, no, this is all mine and you're going to have to support me because I've done that in the past. No, my husband and I are equal partners, not equal, but we share whatever we have. In fact, that has gone, it's sort of gone both ways. There have been times where he supported us almost completely on his salary and income. And there have been times where I've been the biggest breadwinner and supporter, but we've both been contributors 100% in whatever ways we could to this relationship. During the pandemic, my husband couldn't work and we had to rely completely on my business. But thank God we could, and we did. But that's been something that we've both made room for those fluctuations, and we still show up. He worked in my business with me during the pandemic and was a huge help, and he still continues to help out in my coaching practice because by choice now, but because he sees it as valuable and he wants to. But we have made room for each other, and we both had difficult financial experiences in our past relationships. We're just mature, and we found partners that are generous and show up. And so you have to be willing to let go of your past and make room in a new relationship, but you have to be ready for that. You can't come in with these rigid, fixed ideas. You have to find a partner who you trust and who shows you going, in the beginning of the relationship that he is generous and responsible. Um, Speaking of past traumas and past baggage, a lot of people are not aware of how much of their past trauma and baggage can get triggered once they get into a new relationship. And by the way, it's not just about your trauma and your baggage, but it's also about his trauma and his baggage that you have to be willing to make room for. We just got off, my husband and me, off of a call with somebody who was in our mastermind program. She's in a phenomenal relationship with a really wonderful man. And, he has some baggage that she's having to deal with. The great news is he loves her and they're working through it. And, but people come with families and children and grandchildren and all the complications of their family members. And so there has to be room in a new relationship, not only for your trauma and your baggage, but also his. And some people are more willing, to bring their baggage in, but not make room for his baggage. So if you're going to get into a new relationship, it means that if you love somebody, my husband has some very serious autoimmune diseases. And, that's not baggage, but that is health issues that he's had for much of his life, and they affect him greatly. And I have to make room for that. There's times where my husband isn't feeling well. He's not 100%, and he usually rallies anyway. But there are times where he's in pain, he's exhausted, and we just work with it. Instead of going out to dinner or doing something social, we'll curl up on the couch together and we just make room for that in our relationship. Um, the illusion of perfection is something that you have to let go of. I've really defined, I think I have perfection in my relationship, but I've also learned what perfection really is. Perfection is not me having a preconceived idea of what I'm looking for that's so rigid, or what I was looking for that was so fixed and rigid. And then I was trying to fit somebody into this perfect box. Perfection to me is the dance that Benjamin and I do together to make room for everything that we both bring into the relationship. So perfection might have meant that, hey, Benjamin couldn't work during the pandemic, but it was perfect that we were able to pivot and he could work in my business with me and sit with me on our Q&A calls and be by my side. Those Q&A calls were very hard for me to do by myself. They were 2 hours long, and I did 2 of them every week. For my clients, I used to do them all. Now I have my coaches who help out with that. But there was a time where that was really pulling on me and it was really draining. And having Benjamin come in and sit with me and do those calls together with me was such a blessing. And so rather than seeing his inability to work during the pandemic as a curse, we looked at it and said, this is perfect. Look at the opportunity that this gives us right now. So perfection is in being able to see the gifts in any moment rather than seeing things as certain circumstances and situations as a curse. It's looking for the blessings and being able to pivot and work with life and seeing that things are happening and unfolding in their own perfect way and being able to embrace that. So it's a very different idea of perfection, but We can all step into that if we choose to. But if you're really looking for this perfect, this idea of what you think is a perfect relationship and trying to find somebody to fit into all of these preconceived ideas of what will work for you, that is never going to happen. Another big one is when you meet somebody, you may have a life that is very peaceful and calm. You may navigate your life beautifully on your own. You may have done lots and lots and lots of personal growth work, but you may come into a relationship and suddenly you have a person who has a whole different temperament, has a whole different communication style from you, who may not be the man, who may have grown up in a very different family dynamic from the one you grew up in. I have a girlfriend who I adore, and her father was a very prominent psychotherapist, and she is an incredible woman. I really admire her so much. And she's wise and she's tempered. She's a very composed person, very thoughtful. She's not reactive at all. And she married a man who was extremely reactive. The minute he would get upset about something, he would fly off the handle and start screaming and shouting. And it really threw off her nervous system. It was really disorienting for her. And it was upsetting because she wasn't used to dealing with that. And I remember her telling me that she was doing some coaching. She had a life coach, and they were talking in her session about her husband's anger. And what she came to realize was that, that was how he processed. This was his way of processing upsets. And he would just, it was like energy moving through him. He didn't direct it at her. He wasn't yelling and screaming at her. He would get upset about a situation. I can't believe this happened. And these guys are jerks. And, blah, 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 blah. And they were working in a business. They work in a business together. His business, it's a nonprofit. And he would get so upset. And she realized that this was just like a hurricane, and it would pass by. And she started to see it in a completely different way. And she realized that it was just this hurricane that would blow by. And then once he was done, she would say, "Okay, are you ready to talk about this?" And he would be like, "Yeah." And he would just blow off steam. It was like a pressure cooker. You take the lid off, you let all the steam out, and then he was fine. And so she would just let the hurricane blow over, and then they would discuss it rationally. And that worked for her, but she was able to make room for that in the relationship out of love for her partner and love, caring, and wanting this relationship to work, and also not wanting for herself to suffer and push against this and all. As long as he wasn't yelling at her, that was fine. And so she worked through it. She found her way, and she allowed room and space in the relationship for that. I know many, many women who would be upset, and why do I have to change, and why should I have to make room for him, in this relationship? Why do I have to put up with his crap? He shouldn't do that. There's no reason he should be yelling and screaming. That's just wrong. And it wouldn't have worked, and they would have made it into an even bigger issue. My girlfriend, being evolved and having the kind of grace and composure and emotional maturity that she has, was able to make room for that in her relationship. I have a beautiful client right now who is entering into a new relationship. She's been looking so long and so hard for such a long time in her life for love, and she's done oodles of work, just one of the most evolved women I know, with the most beautiful heart. She's so integrated, but in her own love life, a lot of her old trauma and challenges are coming to the surface, but she is showing up so beautifully with this new man. And she posted something online about, I don't know the exact wording, but that her relationship is so much more important than her ego's need to express itself and get all of its needs met all the time. And she was realizing that it was time for her to respect and honor this man, this relationship, and not just be reactive and allow that to sabotage this and just be needy, but that she needs to show up and keep her ego in check, or as we call it in our course, her frenemy, but to approach this in a much more loving and compassionate way, and to be less reactive and more respectful of the relationship and her partner and herself. And she's doing that. And what we're seeing is that she is, in fact, ready for a relationship. So, this is what I would say to you: you're going to get tested. You're going to see where you're reactive and where you're not. You will see your own emotional maturity or immaturity reflected back to you through this. You'll see where and when and how you get triggered. If you take things personally or you let things roll off of you. If a guy ghosts you, do you get hooked in? Do you blame yourself? Does your frenemy go to town on you, or does he go to town on the guy? Does he start getting into well, why am I doing this? And this is bullshit. And I mean, this guy is so immature and blah, 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 blah. Or do you just say, okay, next, there's lots of fish in the sea. I want to find a man who's mature. I want to find a man who, if he isn't into me and doesn't want to go on another date, has the emotional maturity to write to me and say, hey, that was great, and I enjoyed the month that we saw each other, and I realized we're just not a match, but I want to wish you the best. So you are looking for a mature man. You are looking to see your own reactivity in the face of all the things that come up while you're dating. This will be a big indicator of how you're going to be in a relationship. It's not like you're going to find the perfect man. The question is, can you look at your own behavior and really start to evolve and become a woman who is emotionally mature yourself, so that when you do meet that man, when the guardian of your soul, your Benjamin, sits down across from you on a date, you will know that you really are ready to step into that relationship, that you won't sabotage it with your insecurities, that you can communicate your needs in a loving and inviting way that doesn't shame a man or make him feel like he did something wrong, but that makes a man feel like, hey, if I do this, it'll make her happy and I'll get it right. And of course, I want to do that. So you need to do your work on your end so that when the guardian of your soul shows up, you really will be ready for him. I'm Lisa Shield. I teach a course called Emotionally Naked Dating. We teach this and so much more in our course. Please, if you'd like to speak with me, with a member of our team, about how we can help you, go to lisashield.com/reserve, and that will take you to our calendar. You can book an appointment. We will spend an hour with you. We will look at what's going on in your love life and see if you're a good fit. We will never sign somebody up if we don't feel that you're ready to do this work. We will be honest with you. If we do think you're a fit, then we look forward to working with you. This course is 6 months long, and it will change your love life forever. Please come back and see us again. We also do another version of the same podcast called Getting Inside the Right Male Mind with my husband, Benjamin, and me. And you can check out my website, lisashield.com. You can look at our testimonials, our success stories, and please follow us, get on our mailing list, and let us help you find the guardian of your soul. Bye-bye. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening.